phone is on. My phone is on. Is it not? Same way it's been on all these days ahead. Okay? I'm surprised you didn't say anything about my shirt.
I did.
You looked at it. I didn't hear you really say anything.
Well, it being that it's,
Yeah, today's the day Jimmy passed away. And
19.
I've had this shirt, you know what? Jimmy's gone 19 years.
Yeah.
I got this shirt like 20 years. It was in a bag. It's got his autograph on it. I never wore it. It is significantly smaller on me
Is
these
it a
days.
large?
Yeah, it is. It is a large. I gotta start the show. And if you want, well, I don't know if you want, but
I remember him.
I'll tell you
Well,
a little bit.
about Jimmy?
Well, this shirt or whatever. I'll tell you a little bit more about it after
Okay,
after the show starts.
okay, but.
You know how hot it is in here? It's like, have you ever been cremated hot?
I'm Gary Semix, and you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A with Joe Abbate.
Everyone, I'm Joe Abbate. Thank you for tuning in to Vintage Motocross Q&A. My pleasure to be here tonight. We've got a nice show lined up for you. And yeah, I've got the Jim Pomeroy shirt on that I was just talking to Susie about a moment ago. There it is. Good for modeling for me because it's snug. But yeah, Jimmy signed that for me probably 20 years ago because he's gone 19 years ago today, sadly. But we remember Jimmy, and that's just the way it is sometimes. Susie, baby, how you doing over there? Yeah?
Yeah.
Giving, what are you giving away tonight? I think we're on a little bit of a limited supply chain tonight. What do you got?
I want that beautiful telescopic mag light.
Right.
For your appreciation.
Yep.
And I have my custom made sticker.
There they are.
Well, what's it worth?
Okay, so we'll have that for sure, and we'll have some other stuff going along the way as well. Right now, of course, I want to thank our sponsors. That would be Racer X Voltaco East, Preston Petty Products, the International Motocross Museum, Racer X, and of course, Motion Pro, as well as, I'm a little preoccupied here, as well as Motion Pro. Full Circle Racing, that's what it was. I couldn't get it out. Full Circle Racing, all right? So we know who that is. And if you want to become a show sponsor or a show supporter, get a hold of me. Just $49.95 to get yourself a beautiful shirt, some AMSOIL products, get your name up on the board for 90 days. And if you could see behind me right over here, see this? You want to be a sponsor. If you have a business, you want to be on that board, have videos released every day of what you have going on and different types of things from our next time try this segment. $250 a month across the board. That's the price for everybody. There was a time where people were paying 2.5, almost 3 times that amount to be a part of the show. Very close to signing Arma as a sponsor, but there's still room for you. Don't forget to keep sharing the show, whether you're on Facebook or you're on YouTube. Share the show. Comment where you're watching the show from, some of the features that you like about the show, and some really, really cool stuff like that. Right now, we've got a next time try this segment for you, and this involves your brake plate. And if you got a little bit of a wobbly spline back there, well, this is going to help you out.
In this case, the 73 Elsinore had a very, very worn out brake cam. You can see the bushing is completely gone. Actually, there's no bushing in it. That's what we're going to do. The tools and procedure to repair this worn out brake shaft hole are as follows. A 5/8 inch drill, but honestly, I do recommend a 39/64 drill bit. Harder to find, but if you have to buy a drill, buy that one. The other is a Granger 19/32 to 21/32 adjustable reamer that gets you in the range you need. And this is the trick. These are McMaster Carr high load dry sleeve bearings, 14 millimeter ID, 16 OD, 15 millimeter long. The hole is just over 30 millimeters, so put one in on each side, then you have a little gap between them for lube. The part number is 6679K38, and they are PTFE lined. PTFE stands for polytetrafluoroethylene, commonly known as Teflon. So with these, you will then take the hole and drill the hole to proper size, ream it, and then press these sleeve bearings in from each side and reassemble with a little bit of lube. Even though they're dry load, I found lube works better. That's it, and it will take up all the slop in that shaft for the future. Good luck.
There you go. It's a great little bit from Steve Ellis. Sent that to me a while ago, and it is a very informative and a very helpful piece. I want to thank Steve Ellis. I haven't spoken to him in a while. But thank you, Steve, and I hope everyone enjoyed that. In the Moto Showcase tonight, brought to you by Preston Petty Products. Who sent in a bike? I'm sorry, who? Nobody sent in a bike? It's all right. Your Uncle Joe is here. I'll take care of it. You just sit back with the air conditioner, have a beer. I'll take care of it. We're going to take a look at a beautiful Frontera that I restored a couple of years ago. I had some help, of course, from Preston Petty Products, and, well, that was about it. I think other than the customer buying a new gas tank and the side panels, because here's the bike and what it looked like when it was brought to the shop. Now, what's the difference between a good restoration and a great restoration? The hardware. There's the hardware, all of it polished up before we sent it out for plating, and the engine in this bike was rebuilt by Lynn Mobley. That's what the customer wanted us to do. He trusted Lynn, and I thought it was a great decision. The customer wanted a weekend rider, something he could go through Northern California on at the time, and that's exactly what we gave him. In the meantime, if you're not familiar with the Frontera, I can tell you that when Voltaco introduced the Frontera to American customers, they said they wanted it bred from the Persang with the demands of, American enduro. So the idea was to give off-road capabilities with that snappy Persang type of look. But of course, with a wide ratio transmission, a lighting package, and things that you would need sort of for a dual purpose bike. The Frontera, it was a notable motorcycle, no doubt about it. It was lightweight. It had long travel at this point. The 75 was particularly praised highly by all of the magazine tests and anyone that had anything to do with that bike. The 76 250 had significant developments from Voltaco. They certainly were committed to off-road motorcycles. The only thing I regret I didn't do on this bike was, and I shouldn't point these things out, but I can't help it. I didn't paint the background of that Voltaco on that engine. I polished it up and it's beautiful, but I just never really got around to that. You know what was really nice? When Paul Stannard sent me the front number plate for this bike, it had these beautiful little rubber clamps in there. Everything fit perfectly, went on smoothly. Wiring was perfect. There were absolutely no complaints. We went the whole route with this bike. We got the correct grips for it. The McGregor controls. The pipe was absolutely spectacular. It does have the Preston Petty fenders on it. The customer went the distance with this, that's for sure, when he went to Spain to buy fiberglass tank and the fiberglass side panels as well. He did a stellar job polishing up those wheels and replacing the spokes, painting the hubs, and doing everything that comes along with it. When we got done, the brake light worked, the headlight worked, everything was really in perfect condition. Look at that. This bike belonged to a gentleman named McGee. His last name was McGee, and I spoke to him. Well, we emailed back and forth a little bit recently because I have some parts here that are left over from this, and he was thinking about building another bike at the time. Bill McGee. Bill McGee is his name. And but he doesn't want to do that, so he's going to be coming by here sometime in September, and he will be picking up his parts. Thank you, Preston Petty Products, Paul Stannard, and for all you do here for us here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. We're going to take a little tiny bit of a break. We'll be right back with more Vintage Motocross Q&A.
Hello, this is Donnie Hansen. You're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A, and we'll be right back.
God said, let there be light, and there was light. Preston Petty said, let there be light, and he gave you this, 1200 lumens with a rechargeable battery on the back. Hook it up to your bike, no wires, no fuss, no muss. Get over to PrestonPettyProducts.com today. Thanks, Paul Standard.
And there you have it. Paul Standard, Preston Petty Products, still bringing out, what does he say? The legend continues, right? The legend continues. And I've learned this little thing here with bringing people's quotes up, their comments on the page here, and I'm enjoying that. Brian, George Ackerman, very nice book. There it is right there. And so we'll be doing that a little bit throughout the show, okay? What else do we have going on here today at Vintage Motocross Q&A? Well, I got to get back to my media assets so I know what's going on. Oh, I know what I want to do. I want to thank my friend Steve Brandis for being a good supporter and a sponsor of the show. We're going to be having some more things from Steve Brandis and Bultaco East in the very, very near future. We are taking the night off from trivia. Trivia, of course, is brought to you by Motorcyclist Illustrated. Thank you, Mike McCook. We'll be back next week for trivia. Don't forget, it's a call-in contest. If you want the phone number, here it is right here. And what we generally give away is this beautiful poster, 18 by 24 of Jimmy Weiner, Tony DiStefano, of course, legends of the sport on the cover of Racer X back in 2004. But we'll be back next week with a really good tribute for you, okay? Dave's Corner, Dave Boyden. Dave Boyden, great guy, promoting races, been supplying people with parts for their vintage bikes for decades now. Be sure to follow Dave Boyden on Facebook, all right? Under his personal name, Dave Boyden. But if you need parts, you'd always get a hold of him at ams.com. In the meantime, Dave brought up, I've got something very interesting here from Dave, and I'll tell you why I like it. It's education. It's like not the most interesting content in the world as far as visual, as far as maybe looking at a bike. But you know what? I learned a lot watching this video from Dave. And let's get a look at it right now, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Okay, well, out in my back trailer was a little stash of kind of original Bultacos slated for restoration at some point. But this one right here is the little Model 19 Lobedo, the first version of it when the cylinder doesn't have an intake manifold, it's cast into it. This is correct, missing a front fender. 100cc Lobedo, around 1967. Motor turns over, inner chain guard still on it, tail light frame, air cleaner. Pretty complete bike to do a restoration on. This one is a Campera. This is a Model 13, I think 200cc, and I have two of these. This one has a bad hub. I have one with a good hub too, so between the two I should be able to make one. This is definitely a period bobber, where someone has radiused the back fender, real nice job, and did the front fender. Kind of unfortunately took half of our European license plate off the front, but doing that, and then kind of custom painted his chain guard to go with it. All original air cleaner and everything. That's why when I saw this one at Wasion about 4 years ago, I said, oh, I have another one in my storage shed of the same model. You know what that means. We're going to make one out of two. So that's a Campera 200. Then this one is a Model 4. So this is a Mark 1 Matador. The pipe's incorrect. The heat shield is correct. The pipe went through there and came out back over in this way. Someone making it go better, trying to make expansion chamber out of it. This sunburst head on it. 4-speed gearbox. More modernized trials tires put on it. The front fender brace is correct, being silver. Look at that guard on the headlight, is cool. All the levers are correct. The bars are correct. It's showing 764 miles on it. They were hard ones. Frames didn't match the glass, but they weren't that far off. I think someone has repainted it. There's your electrical control up there and a clear gauge. Correct fenders, had no rolled edges on them yet. I used to think this was custom painted Batman. This would have a little gold pinstripe around the edge here. Yeah, there's where some of it still shows. Tiny bit of it right there. There's some more of it. Had the nice little gold pinstriping on there. And again, an unrolled edge rear fender. The right guy that could straighten that fender and use it again. So there's number 3 in this set. This one is number 26, one of the more popular of the Matadors that they sold. A lot of these. I've been collecting other parts for this, but this was a pretty complete bike. Missing the rear fender and both side panels. I have one side panel. For the other side, don't have this side panel. All stock carburetor, turns over, goes through the gears. All enclosed chain, still intact. An aftermarket tail light assembly on it. Still has the clamp-on bars. Original headlight. Giant front hub they had on this. But there's a Matador, probably like Mark III. Somewhere Mark III, Mark IV. But there's 4 bull tacos. We'll leave those all on this one. I got one more bull I want to show you. Have a great day. Only 115 here today. That's why I'm up early doing this.
Is that a fabulous video from Dave Boyden or what? I just really love what Dave brings to the table here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. And as I said, they weren't show bikes, they weren't all polished up, but I didn't know about those libidos and certain things. And it's just, it's part of the hobby and part of the sport that we all love. But sometimes you're just not into going around that corner and seeing that certain. But when Dave brings it, he really does bring it. Don't forget to keep following Dave Boyden on Facebook. The other morning I was up at like 6 o'clock in the morning, and I turned on Facebook, and there's Dave Boyden on his way to a swap meet somewhere in Arizona. Okay, really, really great stuff. Thank you so much, Dave Boyden. Up next, we've got, here's the problem. This is a Motion Pro segment, or a segment that is sponsored by Motion Pro, and for the last 37 years that have been a sponsor of our show, they've given us 20% off across the board on everything except custom-made cables. Now, first question comes to us today from, actually it's the only question, and I've got a really good answer for this, so watch this. I want to know this is from Tyler McGregor. I want to know what is the best way to refurbish lower fork legs, blast, vapor blast, sand after vapor blast to get that factory look. Should they be coated after with clear coat, etc.? I made this video a while ago, Tyler, and it is perfect for this situation. You and everybody else are going to get a big kick out of this because it covers the whole thing. It takes a couple of minutes, but believe me, it's worth it. Check this out.
One of the things a lot of people are raving about today is wet honing or vapor blasting. It's a great way to get aluminum clean. It works especially great on small things like carburetors or things that might be rough sand cast or just rough cast aluminum, such as a rear hub. But on something smooth like a fork leg, the vapor honing, yes, it's going to get the aluminum nice and clean like you see it here. It's going to remove any clear coat that you have on there. But it's not the answer to getting out nicks and scrapes. That's going to take a little work on your part, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more how to do that. I'm going to show you on the lathe how we do it here. After I get done, I'll come back and I'll show you how you can do it at home with just some sandpaper and a little patience. Before I begin at the lathe, I'm going to be removing these studs. We take them out with a little tool like this. Fits right over. It locks on, takes the studs out without any damage. So let's get over to the lathe. I'll show you how I do it there, and when we come back, I'll show you how to do it at home.
Now, what I've used here was 3 different grades of sandpaper. I start off with 180, I go to 240, then I go to 320. What I would recommend strongly is that you use emery cloth. Emery cloth you can get in a plumbing supply store. You can get it in different grits, and it runs a little cooler in your hand as you're using it on a lathe, if you're going to do it in a lathe, just like this. When that thing is turning, paper can get a little warm sometime. With emery cloth, you'll be much better off. As you can see, I hold the paper nice and straight across the workpiece. This way my lines come out nice and clean when I go around. The only problem that, of course, I do have is toward the end of the fork leg where the brake lug is. Okay, so you saw how we did it on the lathe. You put the piece in the lathe, you chuck it up, you've got a live center on the other side. The lathe spins the workpiece and you hold your sandpaper against it and everything comes out pretty nicely. The only problem that you have is, of course, in an area like this where you have the lug for the front brake, you're not going to be able to spin it on the lathe and get any results right there. So I'm going to show you a little bit how to handle that area right now. After we do that, we're going to take the other leg and I'll show you how to refinish the majority of it and get the same results that we got on the lathe. What I've done here is secure it in my vise. I fold up a small piece of sandpaper and I start off the same way I did originally
180, 240, 320, and I make sure I get into all those cracks and crevices around where that brake lug is, and I sand the same direction as I was going when I had it in the lathe. I follow up with some Scotch-Brite pad, just the way you see it here, and in the end, it all matches up to the rest of the work I've done that I had on the lathe. If I have marks like this, what I like to do is to take a fine file, a little 3-face file like this, and I gently file across those scrapes. Gently though, I don't want to cause a flat spot on the lower fork leg. I go over it till it looks like most of it's out, then I'll follow up with a little sandpaper. I'll start again, probably at 240 right here. I'll keep the paper flat in my hand, and I'll go over with the contour of the fork leg. If I see a little scratch or a little nick, I'll go the opposite way, then follow up to go with the grain again. In the final process, I'll fold up a piece of 240, and I'll run it across that fork leg like you see here, like you're shining a pair of shoes if you remember the days when you used to do that. If there are any small imperfections, I follow up. You can do the same. If you're going a different direction, it's not a big deal as long as you follow up the way I'm doing it right here. After that, again, I follow up with the Scotch-Brite pad. I go from top to bottom, over the top, down to the bottom, and I get a super clean, shiny finish. Well, not so shiny. I get a nice brush finish, nice satin finish on that lower fork leg. You can get the same results at home. You don't have to have a metal lathe in order to do this. If you just follow the things I showed you how to do here, you'll get the same results I get. After that, by the way, if you wanted to follow up with some clear coat and paint, or you could have them clear powder coated, you can do that as well. Or keep them just like that, and you can freshen them up whenever you need them. That is Tyler's question. Tyler has another question? I don't know if I can do that, Tyler. Oh, just go on Google and put in stud remover, threaded stud remover tool. I've got one, threaded stud remover tool. You'll find it, you'll see it. If you don't find it or you can't, get in touch with me and we'll get you all straightened out, okay? And that's the only way anybody should removing threaded studs from cylinders, fork legs, or anything else. Do not use vice grips or anything else, okay? There is another question. I didn't write it down. I'm not saying I wasn't going to cover the question. I am going to cover it, and it's from somebody we all know. He's a contributor to the show, and it's Roy Vanderveer. Great guy. I know Roy over 20 years. I've raced with him. He's a fabulous mechanic, a good friend, and he's a fast guy, too. Roy sent me a note the other day. Why am I so, what did he say? Why am I so kind of painted into a corner of making sure the show is only an hour? I don't really make it only an hour, Roy, or anybody else that's wondering that. But I try and keep it to an hour. The attention span of everybody, if it's really good information, well, then it's good and it's fun and it's moving along. If I don't say so myself, that last segment lasted 4 minutes with me showing you how to sand lower fork legs at home. If you don't have a lathe, if you don't have a vapor blaster, I just showed you how to do it. That's interesting stuff for 4 minutes. If you get somebody on here, and I've had them before, I had a guy one time send me a video on how to put grips on with wire. It was slow death, but it was 2 or 3 years ago. I didn't have much content. I let it run. I cringed through the whole thing. So somebody's got information, somebody's got a video, somebody's got something that I can talk about. I'll run it for 3, 4, 5 minutes. I'm going to put Teddy Boyko up here in a second. I can't run him the whole way because it's like 11 minutes long. But he's really, really good. It's really, really good information. The other thing is, Roy, don't forget, we're on 9 o'clock on the East Coast. Our audience goes to bed a little bit earlier, probably. All right. But anyway, enough about that. New segment to the show? No, not really. But I definitely got the guy I've been looking for quite some time. And he is here to stay. We've got 4 segments in the can from last Saturday. And we're going to be doing more as time goes on. He is, of course, Ted Boyko. Guy that's been around for 50 years.
He's been there grinding alongside of Donnie Emler, E.C. Burt, Mitch Payton. Well, we've got it. And I've asked some questions to Ted Boyko. Let's take a look at this and see how it goes. Ted Boyko, thank you for joining me tonight on the Expansion Chamber.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be doing some things over the next couple of weeks, you and I. And while, you know, for those that may not, I mean, I don't know how you could not know Ted Boyko, but for those of you who may not know him, Ted goes back a while with this porting piston engine game Expansion Chamber. We're talking about days where he was grinding cylinders with Donnie Emler, Harry Clem, even E.C. Burt. Am I correct, Ted?
Yes.
Okay. So while we could really get into things, well, probably things I don't know about, while we could really get into things like that, I just want to go over some basic things about engine building and things that you've seen over the years and how we can help some of our viewers here. One of the first things on Facebook, on the internet, you name it, there is more wrong information about oil than anything else. And while I'm not saying or going to ask you what's the best oil, what is it that you do after rebuilding an engine? What is it with the premix and things like that that you do to ensure you're going to get the best result?
I like to have my customers go through a little scenario far as called heat cycles. And I tell them what mixture, what oils to use, because we ship engines all across the country and, you know, they have brand new cranks, brand new, the motors are brand new entirely. So what I try to do is send them a note in each box telling them what mixtures, 32 to 1, you know, and I also ask them what they've been using for oils over the years. And if there's something that I think that's going to work fine for them, I just tell them to go ahead and keep using what they've been using. Otherwise, I suggest something else. There's so many different good oils out there now, two-stroke oils on the market, that they're all pretty good. So some burn cleaner than others and have more carbon deposits than others. So what I try to do is tell them to do these break-ins with a certain scenario, like 6 times in the garage, heat cycles. And mainly that word is called hydrodynamics, is the word that you use for heat cycles. And when you have a brand new engine, you know, guys, I know guys who don't do what I suggest. They'll go out and just start it and pin it. Well, if you do that, the life of the motor, life expectancy is not going to be good. So what I try to do is make them go through these scenarios, especially if I guarantee these engines. I guarantee all the motors that go out. And if they have an issue and it's legit, I'm going to fix it. I rebuild them for free. I ship them in a box brand new, pay the freight and whatever. It's rare that it happens, but you know, it does happen.
When you talk about heat, when you talk about a heat cycle, Ted, I remember having a conversation with Harry Clem one time, and he said he starts the bikes outside or in the shop near the door, and he puts a fan next to the engine, these air-cooled engines. And he runs a fan, and I forget what the time was, where it was like, let it idle for 10 minutes, let it cool off for
5
20.
to 6 minutes.
Do you remember that procedure?
And we did this religiously, me and Harry. We used to use the Mark Charles stands at DG.
Yeah.
And we would hang these bikes up on the Mark Charles stand, and I put a big old square fan on it, and we fire them up and let the fan go. And the whole thing is you want it to get hot and get it literally entirely cold before you do your next startup. And I always tell the customers, your first startup, you were looking for leaks. You don't care how it runs. You don't give a shit, you know, how the thing's idling or whatever. You're more concerned about coolant leaks, oil leaks, whatever.
Right.
And after the 5th or 6th time that you do your heat cycle, the thing starts to run. It's loosening up. It's starting to like itself. And the thing starts getting smoother. And before you know it, the more of these you do, the stronger this motor gets. And the more of these heat cycles you can possibly do, whether there's 6 in the garage. And then I always tell them to go and do some 10-minute heat cycles after that. And then go to the track and baby it for another hour, you know, and this motor is going to be smooth. It's going to have great power. and you're
Okay.
gonna have a good lifespan. That's the whole key. Is my motors, I want to get a lot of hours. That's the key.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you don't do the things I suggest, you're not going to get that life out of the motor. And trying to get as many hours for each customer by putting better components in them and get more hours than they would if it was a brand new motor from OE.
Okay.
So,
Let's talk about this, Ted. We see this. Well, I've seen it. You've probably seen it. You probably saw it 6 times last.
oh my God,
You probably
every
saw it
motor
6
comes in,
times last week.
there's C's right there.
A Caesar on the bridge, and it's primarily due to, I guess, them not drilling the pistons and they're not getting the proper lubrication in this area. Do you see that a lot? And let's talk a little bit about the relief in that area too. Talk about this, Ted. When you have a cast iron bore, what happens there? When you have a chrome bore or a Nickel, what happens there? And of course, when there's a bridge, isn't it 100% required every time to drill those lubricating holes?
Yes, it is, especially on the exhaust bridge. You know, I got guys that are doing them everywhere. You don't want to put them everywhere. You only want them on that exhaust bridge. That's the hottest point of any 2-stroke motor, right there on the bridge. So what I do is I not only drill 3 holes on the pistons there to relieve that hot point, but I also chamfer the bridge and give it a little bit of a nice bevel in there so it doesn't have any obstruction of any kind and have a tendency to seize. I would say 80% of the 2-strokes that come in to my shop, the guys who've done their own top ends, none of them drill them. And even though Wiseco puts a little paper in there suggesting the people to do it, they still bypass. Even dealers. I've had dealers who, you know, they go to the shop and they put them together and, you know, the mechanic doesn't even do it, you know, so because they're probably not savvy enough or whatever. But in the meantime, it's super important to do it on these things. I mean, I got 2 or 3 last week. They're all squeaked, 2 strokes with some piston in it, detonating on the exhaust side, and especially on these nickel seal cylinders, when they squeak, it rips the plating on the upstroke and just tears the plating right off. So these customers are then have an expensive top end to fix. They're forced to either go to Millennium or Power Seal or US Chrome. Those are the only 3 guys out there doing replating. They all take 4 to 6 weeks, unless you know the guys and have a good, like I use US Chrome, and they expedite my stuff quickly because I do a lot of.
What do we got? What do we got here, Ted? What do you see here?
I see there that on that cylinder, it looks like somebody bored it and they never honed it. And then if they did, there's no crosshatch in there whatsoever. All I see is the bore marks going round and round. And then I see the bridge, the bore didn't even hit the bridge. So that part, that is a wear mark from the previous piston in there on that cast iron liner, going up and down and probably chamfering itself and making a nice big bevel right there. So it probably would help it, if that thing looks pretty concave on there. So it looks like a raw bore. I mean, it looks like somebody just bored it with a rough tool.
Yes.
I mean, whoever bored that thing, I use my bores don't look like that. You know, they come out really nice, and then you hone out minimal so you can have a bitch and crosshatch in there. So
what do we got here, Ted?
That's a typical seizure that somebody probably looks like he'd run a lot of. It looks dry for one. So whatever oil he was using almost looks like there wasn't any oil. I don't see any residue on the cylinder whatsoever.
Right.
2 strokes, you'd have some residue on the liner, in the ports. I see none on this unless the guy cleaned it off, but it definitely looks pretty dry. And a lot of guys, Believe it or not, I got a lot of guys who mix these things lean, that don't have any, they don't know any better. You know, there's a lot of confusion with the mixtures. These guys are really, really, and it's simple. I use a standard 32-1 just about on anything, Yamalu bar, and you're going to get some decent break. That's a good way to break in your bike with 32-1. And then I tell these guys, if you're getting a lot of oil around the end of the silencer where it's soaking up your rear, the silencers are important. You want those things packed tight, and you don't want them to get saturated with oil because then things run for shit. And you want these things to really have, and they're also, I'm big into quiet. If they get wet and all the packing gets oiled up, the thing's going to be the loudest chamber you ever heard. And I'm big on having a quiet chamber. And also horsepower wise, if you have that thing full of oil in the end of that silencer, the thing's just going to run like crap. So I'm big on making these things. So I tell people, if you get excessive oil out of that thing dripping, a lot of two strokes I've seen where they come to the shop and there's oil out of the silencer, they're dripping out where the fitment is, where the silencer goes to the pipe. And I'm going, well, what do you got? How much oil you put in this thing if it's squirting out of the silencer like that, now the head pipe? And a lot of guys too don't seal those areas up. I seal those up on all my two strokes with some high heat sealant, some kind, the night before they go together. This way, these things just make a lot of power.
Yeah.
And you get any air leaks between the head pipe, silencer, and pipe, the things are, they'll run, but are they going to run to their maximum performance? No way. So, and it's funny, I go to these vintage races, and it's hilarious. I go up and bikes are leaking fuel. They got some hillbilly petcock on there that they're just, made to get by the day. And then I'm looking at the pipes and there's oil leaking out all exhaust. And it's like, these things run really good if you do them properly, So
Sure.
I'm out there going, I always suggest and try to help out all these people when I'm out there, believe it or not. And it's a community that could all use a little teaching. So that's why I'm out there.
I got to jump for tonight, but we're going to have you back next week. And this is something that's been on my mind for a while. Porting and polishing and boring. Everybody wanted it. Everybody talked about it, especially when we were younger, between the DG and the FMF years. I want to get into a conversation with you about porting, how you do it, and give the viewers a little more education on that, okay?
Sounds great.
I don't want to call him my guest because he's part of the team now. Ted Boyko and the Expansion Chamber. Be sure to follow Ted on Facebook. Also, Boyko Racing. 50 years, probably more than that, in experience and just a fountain of information. Ted, thanks for joining me. We welcome you back next week.
Thank you very much for having me. Really enjoyed it. Thanks again.
You're welcome.
Why is this working like this? Is my battery dead? It's no problem. No, we're good. We're good. Just a minute, folks.
I'm Gary Chaplin. You're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A with Joe Abbate.
Motocross struck America, coming from Europe like a lightning bolt, striking the hearts and minds of people all across the country and the world. Battles of intense racing and cutting rivalries with loyalty to brands and heroes intensified as years of blood, sweat, and dirt flew through the minds of those memories of champions as they wrestled their machines through almost impossible tracks. But where are those past champions? And where are their bikes? Terry Good, an ex-pro motocross racer, has made it his life mission to honor these heroes and the bikes they rode to stardom. We raced, we rode, we lived and breathed motocross. Go back in time and relive those moments, now preserved for the first time ever in the world's first museum dedicated to the history of motocross. Our new building is in the gate. Help us get a great start and you can be part of history. Go to internationalmotocrossmuseum.org and become a part of our team.
The International Motocross Museum is a not-for-profit 501c3 organization. Be sure to visit them online at internationalmotocrossmuseum.org. And all your donations or anything you purchase from the International Motocross Museum is 100% tax deductible. I saw a comment there a moment ago that said something about the sound. But then I saw people commenting about the IMM. So was the sound good? I hope so. Looks like it's good from my end. All right. I'm just going to check the comments one more time. Yes. Alan Huie says yes. I hope he's talking about the sound. All right. All right, we're looking good. Let's get back to the media assets here. And what am I doing next? Oh, I know what I want to do. I want to say this. You want to become a sponsor of Vintage Motocross Q&A? You can for just $250 a month. Prices have never been lower. They're never going to be lower than this. Okay. If I got to get them any lower than this, that's it. I'm going to sell not AMSOIL. I'm going to go out and sell Amway. All right. $250. Get your name up on the board behind me over here. You'll be up there with other people who have been up there for 4 and 5 years, including Motion Pro, Full Circle Racing, Otaco East, and Vinco. Vinco would still be up there. Kirk Leverton was with us. May he rest in peace. What's it worth? This is the segment of the show where I ask you, the viewers at home, how much you think this bike recently sold for. The winner will get 2 collector's items. I don't know if they're collector's items. Vintage Motocross Q&A stickers that Susie makes right here in-house. And we also make them bigger if you want to put it on the back window of your truck. Those are not the ones we give away. We give away the smaller ones, okay? So let's get into the What's It Worth segment. This week's bike is a 1982 Yamaha YZ250. And according to the listing, it's been the same owner for 32 years. 1982 YZ250. It's acquired by the seller in 1987. It's been finished in competition yellow and black with the white graphic. Power comes from a liquid-cooled 246cc, 2-stroke single paired with a 5-speed transmission. The equipment includes a solo seat, an upswept expansion chamber exhaust base kickstarter. What else has it got? Oh, it's got a Mikuni carburetor, electronic ignition, leading axle fork, and adjustable rear monoshock with a monocross rising rate linkage. Gold finish did wire spoke wheels. Service records. What did it say here? Oh, service under current ownership included an engine and fork refreshing along with assorted replacement controls and graphics, as well as some other things. The YZ250 is now being offered by the seller at no reserve with a center stand, and it is only for off-road use. It says here, though, it has a California title. The liquid-cooled 246cc engine. It's equipped with a Yamaha power valve induction system. We already mentioned the upswept expansion chamber and a few other things. Output for this bike was rated at 36 horsepower, 21 foot-pounds of torque. The engine was refreshed per the seller with replacement seals and gaskets. And overall, this bike looks pretty nice. If it is an original owner bike, you can see it was ridden very, very little. It has the original graphics on the side panels as well as on the front number plate, and just a little bit of information. See that swing arm toward the back? It doesn't have that triangle shape that the other years had. That's the 82. The 81 had the triangular shape yet. I'm not even sure if the 81 YZ250 was water cooled, but I'm getting ahead of myself. This is a 125. It is in real nice shape. Same owner for a really long time. I love that Whirlpool style throttle. All right. So now it's your turn, guys. What do you think this bike recently sold for on Bring a Trailer? 35, 45. How much? $3,200. $3,200. I think that's a lot of bike for $3,200. Rims look nice. I don't see any gouges in there like from the tire iron, somebody taking the tires off. Doing a bad job with that. Here's another view from the back rim. And, the side panels and the gas tank, that usually tells the story. That and the foot pegs. But this bike looks like it's in real nice shape. And there it is, $3,200. Susie, who do we have that came the closest without going over? Do I see anything on my screen?
I lost a lot of
Amzor, $49.95.
I see Mike McCook at 34. Is there anything lower, guys, than Mike McCook?
TV, whoever TV is, said 33. And he's on the money.
Who's that?
Well, that's just it. I don't know who TV is. I ask him who he is every time he's on this show or Tank Bangers, and he remains a man of mystery.
Oh,
So TV, whoever you might be,
I don't have that.
if you would like to send me a message on my personal Facebook page, send me your address. I will send you 2 stickers just like this, compliments of Susie Creates and Vintage Motocross Q&A. You're right on the money at 30. Isn't that what I said? 30, what did I say, 33? Or did I say 32? All right, well, you know what? You're over by a little bit, but that's okay. It's like the day you didn't get a ticket when you were speeding, okay? Get a hold of me, TV, and I'll get you some stickers, okay? That's it. I'm moving on. Susie has viewer appreciation. I'm putting her on full screen in all her glory. There she is. Susie, what do you got for viewer appreciation?
I have 2 tonight.
2? That means I got to give away 2 mag lights.
No. Huh?
All right, I'll give away 2 mag lights. That's all right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So, we had Bud Sexton and Glenn Thomas.
Glenn Thomas.
Yeah?
If I got the right Glenn Thomas, that's a guy who's been posting some incredible pictures every day on Facebook, some great action shots of the golden era of motocross, Glenn Thomas. And who's the other one?
Bud Sexton.
Buzz Sexton?
Bud.
Oh, Bud.
Yeah.
Bud Sexton. So that's what we got. Bud Sexton and Glenn Thomas. Bud Sexton and Glenn Thomas. Go to my personal page. Send me a message with your, obviously I know your name. Send me your address, and I will gladly send you both the mag light from Russell Waters, telescopic, magnetic, with that really cool light in there. It's going to come in really handy. All right? Thanks, guys, for watching the show and for playing along. I'd love more than anything to take a commercial break right now, but I don't think I have one. Oh, actually, you know what? I do, and I am going to take it right now. Then we'll be back with Jeff Kokoski's Did You Know?
Hi, I'm Tommy Croft, and you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A with Joe Abbate. We'll be right back with my dear friend Joe.
I get asked often, what's the most important thing on Clunker? Answer's simple, it's me. That's why I use Full Circle Racing wheels prepped by Tom McAllister. So should you. Watch this and learn why. When racing vintage motocross where suspension is very limited, your wheels can be the difference between winning or serious injury. We chose to run Full Circle Racing wheels because of the super high quality materials and the heavy duty spokes used. Prepped by Tom McAllister, I have the confidence on the track to push way harder through the rough stuff and the bigger jumps, knowing my wheels are going to stay under me. Hey, Clunker may be 50 years old, but his wheels are brand new, and yours should be too. Call Tom McAllister at Full Circle Racing today.
Tom Tom McAllister, Full Circle Racing. Big part of our show for almost the entire time we've been doing this, and that is going on 6 years. Okay. Right now we have something from Jeff Kokoski. It is a Did You Know segment. It has to do with grease. Yes, Jeff Kokoski came up with the pictures, and I get the connotation to some degree. Perhaps when Susie and I were much younger, we did resemble this picture, maybe a little bit. Not so much today. But this is the Did You Know segment, and Jeff Kokoski put the pictures together. He did have another picture I'll show you at the end. I didn't want to get too far off track at the beginning of the show. But did you know? Did you know there are different types of grease, and some manufacturers use different colors to distinguish them? Reducing heat due to friction from two mated and moving parts by using some sort of lubricant is nothing new. The ancient Egyptians and the Romans combined powdered lime with olive oil, sort of a waste of olive oil, to create a lubricant that stuck the chariot axles and made moving huge pieces of stone easier on slaves. The ancient Chinese developed lubricants from vegetable oils, while the ancient Greeks found that fat from sheep tallow contained triglycerides that worked well as a lubricant as they were warm. And things like this came up as far as words go. Tribology, the study of friction, lubrication, and wear phenomenon for interacting surfaces in motion. And there's this other one Jeff's got here. Greases, made of mineral oil, synthetic oils, thickening or emulsifying agents, additives for specific applications and conditions. But I'll continue. In the Middle Ages, humans found that oil from whale blubber and other sea creatures could not only be burned in lamps to produce light, but the oil was also an excellent lubricant. However, it wasn't until the first industrial revolution that development of the factory machine, steam engines, then the coming of the locomotive, then the discovery of oil in Titusville, Pennsylvania, prior to the Civil War, that petroleum products went into widespread use as a lubricant. The extensive use of petroleum-based lubricants even brought about its own course of engineering study called tribology, as we talked about a little bit earlier, which is broadly defined as the study of friction, lubrication, wear phenomenon, interaction surfaces in motion. Modern-day greases are generally manufactured from three different components: base petroleum oils, be they from mineral or synthetically made, and some of the other ones were, they have better temperature resistance or better material capability, making up the vast majority of the grease. In some cases, up to 90% of the grease might be formulated from base oil. Next comes a thickener agent, technology called emulsifying agents, which turns the grease from a semi-fluid into a more lubricating consistency, and it's more efficient and it has more flow ability. All right? Thickeners make up anywhere from 3 to 30% of grease formula and are absorbed lubricants and additives similar to a sponge. They hold them in suspension, then it releases them as they're under pressure to create a film between moving parts. Thickeners are classified as either soap or non-soap agents. Soaps are generally made from lithium, aluminum, or clay. Non-soap thickening agents are less common and are normally reserved for high-temperature environments and increase the melting point or dropping point, which is called the tribology. Lastly, special additives make up less than 10% of the grease when they are used. Some of the most common additives are oxidation and rust inhibitors, anti-wear, and friction-reducing agents. Those thickeners and additives will also change the color of the grease, and some greases manufactured from the colorant dyes to help facilitate the identification of greases, like we were showing here just a little while ago. Unfortunately, there is no industry standard that governs those colors, so it's important to read the grease container label before you get started. You should also cross-reference that with what is called for in your shop manual. Absence of specific general guidelines on color is as follows. Dark blue, we have them here. I think Jeff gave us some of these. No, this is the thickening agents, okay? But we've got some other ones here that, here, Jeff says that they're dark blue, they're made from conventional base stocks, most common types of grease. It's used by the automotive industry, suitable for wide temperature ranges, does not need frequent relubrication. Black or gray usually indicates the presence of microscopic particles or graphite. They're usually labeled EP for extreme pressure. Most original equipment manufacturers, OEMs, of off-road mining, heavy highway, and construction equipment recommend moly grease for their parts and products. Newer off-road bikes may also call for the moly grease. Red usually indicates a synthetic base of grease. They have good corrosion resistance, generally interchangeable with blue greases. You've got your green, fewer formulation of extreme pressure grease is designed especially for heavy-duty industrial and agricultural gear that must withstand continual exposure to damp conditions and fluctuations. And of course, white or undyed amber greases, something like this you have right here, generally indicates that it's food grade safe, that it's used by food processing and paper packing industries. This is not the same as the white lithium spray lubricant you find at your local auto parts store. Now, Jeff has given us a whole lot of information here today on the world of grease. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all this and put it up on the Vintage Motocross Q&A page tomorrow. And you'll be able to access that information to see what the difference might be in grease that you may want to put in your trailer or grease that you may want to put in your triple clamp bearings. And there is going to be a difference, as we've just learned. Now, Jeff Kokoski, for some reason, thinks that I resemble Michael Tucci, who played Sonny in Grease. I don't really see the resemblance. It was fun, Jeff. You know, when I have to do that, when I have to say that, I get a little uncomfortable with it. But it is fun stuff, and I don't know. Perhaps I didn't mind doing it when it came to this. Oh, I was all ready to do it. But when I had to look like Stanley Tucci, I don't know. I took sort of a opposite. Jeff Kokoski, a brilliant segment, as always. Jeff Kokoski. And I'll repost it tomorrow on the Vintage Motocross Q&A page. Last week, if you were watching the show, I had two great videos from these gentlemen right here. One is Phil Hamilton, the gentleman in the middle. The other one is Jeremy Craig. Jeremy Craig was the owner of this white Honda Tribute bike that I built 20 years ago. And Phil Hamilton is the present owner. I was not able to get this picture of Brad Lackey. Jeremy stopped by Brad's house before delivering the bike to Phil Hamilton. And Brad was nice enough to autograph it again. And I'm going to show you a little video with Brad in just a minute. In fact, you know what? I'm gonna bring it up right now so you guys could all enjoy that. And then we'll be back with, well, it's still part of Vintage Motocross Q&A. But let me get that video from Brad. Some really good stuff. I didn't even get a chance to listen to this whole thing myself. Brad Lackey in front of his house. Here we go.
Story about you and motocross racing in the 70s. What stays in your memory about that?
Well, that was the heyday of motocross, the 70s, They had high school motocross, if you can believe that, think about that now. They barely let them even have football, and they had motocross teams at all the high schools, so the sport was growing leaps and bounds at that time. And every kid wanted a motorcycle, so the sales were the highest they ever been then. And now even, the numbers of bikes they were selling, off-road bikes and dirt bikes, was crazy. So the industry was booming. As they say, the Wi-Fi is booming, but the motorcycle industry was booming. And it's just a great time to grow up as a kid because you get to ride anywhere. There was race tracks, but there was also open land. And you could go and ride your bike just about any place that there wasn't a house, And that was the best time of the era. And I think the top racers that came out of that time, learned how to ride a motorcycle, not just on a track like today's riders. They learned how to ride hills and valleys and mud and everything. So I think the quality of riders came out of that era a lot more than later on.
Well, so your claim to fame in many ways is you put America on the map by going to Europe. What did that mean to you to be able to be one of the only riders to win in Europe?
Well, in the 60s, the Europeans came over here and I got a chance to race with them in Northern California and Santa Cruz and San Rafael and just watched how they could stomp us so easily, and I didn't understand why at the time because I was young and a kid, and and the bikes were obviously better. They had better motocross bikes than the stuff we were riding, but they were in better shape and they were older, 10 years older rider. When you're 16 and a guy's 26, it's really kind of hard to compete a little bit against that, especially when somebody has got a lot of knowledge and knows tracks from all around the world, every surface, if it's sand, if it's mud, if it's this, they can do that. And we were more, if we grew up in NorCal, we had some wet tracks. If you grew up in LA, you had dry tracks, So if you didn't get out of your area, we're really only good on one area. So I decided that by going to Europe and learning the skills that they had, that was my only chance to actually go to Europe and win some GPs and possibly become a world champion. So that's what I did at an early age. Right after winning the 72 AMA National Championship, I went to Europe in 73 and stayed there for 10 years until I won the world championship in 82.
Well, so coming back a few years, the picture on the front of this bike, and this bike commemorates you as a Honda rider, but you and your background and your history. What does this picture mean to you, and how does that reflect something about your history in this bike?
You know, I can tell by the helmet I'm a Honda rider, so that means this is a 77 or 78 photo. I'm not sure which year, but that's the era of this bike. You know, it's the 70s, and that was, like I said, still a great time in the sport. I was in the GPs, and I was been there since 73, so I was winning GPs by now, and I was in contention to win the world championship in 78. I ended up getting second place, but you know, it's just the heyday. You know, it was becoming the end. You know, when you got into the 80s, you know, things started changing, more corporate and more about the money, and the teams had problems with the economy and stuff. Like in the 70s, there was no problem with the economy. I mean, everything was good, it seemed like. But in the 80s, you know, there's downturns in 82, 83, you know, interest rates were 16, 18%. So the companies cut back on their riders and their racing programs and their development programs. So 70s was a time when things were still rocking and rolling, and it was great to be a motorcycle racer in that era.
Well, thanks, and I appreciate the time. You know, you grew up in the purest time of motorcycle history and racing.
I was very lucky to be born when I was.
There you have it. Brad Lackey with the tribute bike. And if you watched the show last week, well, let's put it this way. If you didn't see the show last week, go back and watch last week's show. Great video coverage from the previous owner, the present owner, how this bike was stolen and recovered the night before it was to be delivered. Incredible story. And other things too on how I built the bike and why. Okay? That's on last week's episode of Vintage Motocross Q&A. And I thought this would be nice. There's Brad with the silver tribute bike back in 2005. And there he is. His beard has not aged a minute. It looks exactly the same. This Week in Motocross History is brought to you by Racer X. Be sure to visit them online on racerx.com or go out and buy a magazine. All right. 1978, at the one and only AMA Pro Motocross race ever held in Rhode Island, Team Yamaha's Rick the Lumberjack Burgett and Rocket Rick Staten went 1 and 2 in the 500 class at Pine Top Cycle Park in Escahege, Escahege, Rhode Island. Burgett, who was on his way to the 1978 500cc National Championship, swept both motos on a very rough Pine Top track. Mako's Darrell Schultz would finish third overall that day. The cool thing about this is that someone made a movie about it, okay? You could watch it on Racer X online. Go over to the Racer X website, and you could watch it. It's got Marty Smith, Danny Laporte, Tony DiStefano, Tommy Croft, Steve Stackable, of course, the runner-up, Rex Staten, as well as the winner, Rick Burgett. Now, just a moment ago, we were listening to a video about Brad Lackey, and he was talking about his world championship. Well, 2 days from now, August 8th, Brad will be celebrating 42 years as the world champion, and he is still the only 500cc world champion, Brad Lackey. Thank you, Ben. Vintage Mini Bike Podcast. You do so much for us here at the show. You buy shirts, you share the show, you're an all-around great guy, and I love your Vintage Mini Bike Podcast that is on every Sunday. Hey, Ben, I never ask you, and you never tell me. Give me a flyer that tells me exactly when the show is on. I'll put it here next to your name instead of just Vintage Mini Bike Podcast. I mean, let's find out when this is really, really happening, and we'll get some other people to watch the show too, okay? I know it's on Sunday night, so if it's not on past 4 o'clock in the afternoon, everybody will be awake. We've got some announcements. The big one is coming up October 18th. I am your MC for the Northern California Motocross reunion that happens on October 18th. The reception is from 3 to 7. And there's a vintage motocross bike display. There's mountain bike. There's a golf tournament going on. There's good food. There's going to be drinks. Would you look at the list of people that are going to be here? David Bailey, Roger DeCosta, the Fox Brothers, Brock Glover, Billy Grassi, Brad Lackey, Tom Rapp, Pat Rector, Daryl Schultz, Steve Simons, Dana Waxham, Larry Wosick. I'm your host. And if you haven't heard me say it before, confirmed, Jeff Ward. Flying Freckle, Jeff Ward, Team Kawasaki, multi-time Supercross, Motocross, Trophy Donation, Motocross Donation winner, Jeff Ward. You don't get many chances to see Jeff north of Anaheim. Get out for this event. What else we got going on? The Zor Motocross Park, September 27th and 28th. All right, they've got 125cc two-stroke air-cooled classes, 200cc drum brake stuff. They got a little bit of everything, including the 2025 Zor Cup. All right, who wouldn't want to be a part of that? You know what George Ackerman does for fun? He throws parties for 300 of his closest friends. And that is coming up on October 25th at 10 a.m. till 4 on County Line Church Road, Ruther Glen, Virginia. He's got the Moto Barn. He's got the Mini Moto Barn. He's got Barry Higgins, Warren Reed, Steve Wise. Got a couple of his closest friends coming up there. He's got food. He's got drink. They've got trophies. They've got a great bike show. You don't want to miss this. That's October 25th, Ruther Glen, Virginia, George Ackerman. Vintage Motocross happens again Sunday, September 14th. It's got a vintage trials on the 13th. This is at Rattlers Run. Go over to arma.org and you can look up Rattlers Run. You can find out all the things that are happening there as far as the race goes. Once again, I got to mention it. $250 a month gets you on the board here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. You could be reaching 1.5 million. You know what? It'll be 2 million. It'll be 2 million by the time we do another 90 days from now. Guaranteed. Because that's the rate we've been growing at. Okay? So why not get in on the action that International Motocross Museum, Motion Pro, Taco East, Preston Petty, Full Circle Racing, AMSOIL, and Racer X are seeing. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier today, I don't know if I mentioned it on the show or not, but I definitely mentioned it on, I'm sorry, my derriere's falling asleep back here. I definitely mentioned it on Facebook a little bit earlier today. I think we're about ready to sign ARMA, okay? Anyway, 19 years ago today, we lost one of the most congenial, most charismatic racers ever to ride a motorcycle, and that was everybody's friend, Jim Pomeroy. 19 years ago today, we lost Bimbo. I wear this shirt proudly. I will probably not wear it until next year again. It has been in a bag for like 20 years. And I found it the other day, and I did remember it was August 6th. And I figured, well, I'm going to put it on for the show. Gino, come over here. Can you jump up here, Gino? Come on. Come on. Can you get up here, Gene? Come on. Come on, Gene. Come on. All right. You're afraid you're going to fall, and I'm not going to catch you. Okay, I get it. The things I have to do for this. Oh, you ready, Gene? I don't know how he does it when it gets higher when I'm on it. Come on, Gene. Come on. Come on. Okay. That is it from Vintage Motocross Q&A. Be sure to share the show. Tell your friends about it. We've got some good winners tonight. Glenn Thomas, Bud Sexton, Ted Boyko. Tell me you didn't love that Ted Boyko segment. Had Brad Lackey on. Only at Vintage Motocross Q&A. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We will see you next time.